Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Jiayanu, Pakhera-gale, Ni hao, Chunushumme, Washmale, Ohio Gozaimas, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifahal, Halishumachatore, Ahlan Wasalan, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabia, Bhalli Kriaya, Hosh Galdin, and Ayo Sayo. And thank you very much, everybody, for tuning into PTV World. You're certainly watching World this morning alongside my very well-learned colleague, who happens to be Miss Haja Sati. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. First things first, hello Haja, how are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for introducing me. So someone was there up in the mountains enjoying, the mountains and doing the work. I think this is how ideal work life is, where you enjoy and you also, earn money out of it. But, I was listening to a podcast, Shahzad, and that was a very interesting take, and I would really like to have your opinion on it, right? There's this clinical psychologist, his name is Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
He coined the term crisis of masculinity, right? And he said that because of the feminist movement around the world, there's this crisis of masculinity where men are being, forced to act in a particular way. They're not allowed to, express their opinion very freely when it comes to that. And of course, he blames the feminist movement for that. And he says that any critique on them is taken as, what do you call it, as a very myopic view and stuff like that. So, what do you think about it? True.
I think I'm going to partially agree with it because I've gone through that difficult phase of my life where, all of a sudden, we started interviewing people because my definition of feminism in the first place is somebody who actually talks about equality, somebody who talks about equal rights for men or probably women too as well. But yes, there was a time when we actually used to have those ladies over here in the studios who would speak about feminism as well. And then, when you put forward a word where you're trying not to defend men, but then at the same time kind of recognizing the effort they put in, they would all of a sudden, start charging up as well. And I was like, hey, you know what? They're not even ready to have a conversation. And that's something which, was taken aback by me too as well. And I was like, okay, it's better to stay quiet than rather to voice your concerns about how every single day, men or women are trying to make sure that they're going to shape up their household, that they're going to nurture their children too as well. And, all of these responsibilities should be shared in the first place too as well. But imagine, I think that I'm going to agree to it. And it's because of the fact that I've gone through it myself that, they do not let you voice your concern. They're not ready to listen. And they think as if, if we say something, we are just being, there's a special term for it, but I'm not going to label it out over here as well. But yes, I think I'm going to agree with it.
Okay, that's wonderfully fantastic because I do agree with it. I think there are biologically some traits that are feminine and there are some traits that are very masculine. It's a biological thing, right? And so, so aggression is basically into the men. And the Islamic perspective says, yes, men are more aggressive, but we can utilize that aggression, when we stand up to the injustice, when we stand up against the tyranny, against the transgressors. And this is the same ideology that forces you to, pick up the place for a very strange man, but, he's facing injustice to that.
And in addition to that, I would like to add over here as well, because I believe that Johnny Depp, has done quite a lot of a good job. And it's because of the fact that imagine that people earlier used to think that, no matter what happens, it's always the women who's the victim and whatnot. So he brought forward such a case in the history of mankind where for the very first time we saw how a woman was abusing, and he was in a very abusive and a toxic relationship too as well. So I think that actually gives us hope that, what, I think it is on men too as well, where we never voice our concerns about the kind of relationship we live in, or probably if you're getting a beating over here, in Pakistan, nobody's going to come out and be like, yaar, meri begum ya meri buddhi mainu maar di. Nobody's going to talk about it because they think that it's so against manhood. It's not. Nobody needs to be in a toxic relationship. If you can talk it out, that's wonderful. But if it's physical, hey, say bye-bye. You can probably give it a chance, okay? If people can change things around. But yes, things have been changing around as well, which is why we really want to talk about our economy in the first place. So, ladies and gentlemen, with the top stories, let's see what do we have in the first place. So, Prime Minister Mia Muhammad Shahbaz Sharif Saab says government's immediate priority is to safely navigate through current economic crisis in a feature written in British weekly The Economist. He said the whole world is facing a difficult year, but we have the protection of an IMF program to see it through. He said some measures will create hardship and require sacrifice, but we are committed to implementing the program as it is our path to safety. He said we must do better by our youth and our women and enable them to fulfill their aspirations and become drivers of our economic growth. terming climate change a major existential threat. The Prime Minister said, "It's time for coming together. We must revive and strengthen our relationships with old friends on the international stage." He said, "We should focus equally on making friends out of adversaries." Wow.
Oh, wow. So, I think it's really, I mean, for me, it's a good thing that, we are being led by the Prime Minister, who's worried about it, the economy, and he's doing his utmost. So, speaking of the economy, so our second news is prices of sugar remain stable in the 5-month tenure of the Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif government. In order to provide relief to general public, Prime Minister reduced the prices of sugar by 28 rupees per kg. Government fixed the price of the sugar at 78 rupees per kilo. During the tenure of former Prime Minister Imran Khan, sugar was being sold up at 120 rupees per kg. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif has directed to transfer to the benefit of the people in the view of the decrease in the value of US dollars. So I think that's a really good news, considering the fact that, sugar is consumed a lot, especially when it comes to our households, right? It's essential when it comes to that. And the reduction in the prices surely will, diffuse the benefit to the lower income people when it comes to that.
And in addition to that, I would like to give away this message that please make sure that if you've been consuming a lot of sugar, it's not really healthy.
Right.
But yes, that's good that the price is stable for the last 5 months. Right. Everybody can use it whenever they want. But do not overuse it. Excess use of sugar can actually lead you towards a lot of health issues too as well.
Right.
Now, going back to my village, Faisalabad, from where a lot of superstars, ladies and gentlemen, actually have represented Pakistan.
Right.
So the death anniversary of this superstar really needs to be mentioned over here, because today we're talking about the death anniversary of the legendary Qawwal, Mr. Nussar Fateh Ali Khan Sahab. Ladies and gentlemen, he was born on October 13, 1948 in Faisalabad. He was the 5th child and first son of Fateh Ali Khan, a musician, vocalist, instrumentalist and Qawwal. Private news channels even reported that he was a singer of Qawwali and considered one of the greatest singers ever recorded. He possessed a 6-octave vocal range and could perform at a high level of intensity for several hours. And the best part over here is that even at times the studio mics could not really pick up his vocals. So imagine the computers were unable to do that. So that's how skilled he was. He had a vocal belting technique to himself, and extending the 600-year-old Qawwali tradition of his family. Nussar Fateh Ali Khan is widely credited with introducing Sufi music to international audiences. He was popularly known as Shahnshah Qawwali. He also did music projects with Indian music composer A.R. Rahman and film lyricist Javed Akhtar. He reached out to Western audiences through his work with Peter Gabriel on the soundtrack to The Last Temptation of Christ in 1985. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, Nussar Fateh Ali Khan holds the world record for the largest recorded output by a Qawwali artist, a total of 125 albums as of 2001. And just to talk a little more about our legend, ladies and gentlemen, across the border, he was really very famous all over the world too as well. So he went there, to do music for a film.
Right.
So he was living in an apartment. So this is a story which is actually being narrated by one of the Bollywood stars himself, where, the movie was featuring his song.
Right.
So imagine, he would actually call the producer to come over to his place, and the producer wasn't coming because the producer thought, hey, you know what, if he's thinking that he's a very big star, that's not happening. So one day, Nussar Fateh Ali Khan Sahab, what he did was that, he used to record his songs and then send them to the producer, but, things weren't gelling in. So he said to his companions, Nussar Fateh Ali Khan Sahab, that, okay, lift me up, because he was very heavy. He couldn't walk towards the end of his life.
Right.
And it was a little miserable for him too as well at that point of time. So what he did was, his companions picked him up, took him to the producer. When the producer saw that that was the reason why he wasn't coming towards my place, he started crying, and then they made music which made waves all over the globe too as well. So such are the stars of Pakistan, alhamdulillah.
Yes, and I think the artists often complain that, in the starting they do not get the enough respect which they deserve. And that's an often repeated, cry, which I think that I have found in a lot of, artists when it comes to that. So now moving on, I think, Shehzad, that climate change is something that is really adversely affecting us, be it very erratic monsoon weather patterns or the melting of the glaciers, or the earthquakes that
or the heat in the studios.
Yes, heat in the studios, and Shehzad is constantly, saying that, I am lucky because I'm wearing, lawn, which is sort of, a more summer-friendly attire, but he's very suited, booted hair, and it's really hot.
Yeah.
And how it is adversely affecting us when it comes to that. And, there is no compensation for a country like us because we were not the, contributors of this climate change. To elaborate more on this concept, we have a really amazing package. Let's have a look.
How do we know humans are responsible for global warming? Our planet has been warming rapidly since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. The average temperature at the Earth's surface has risen about 1.1 degrees Celsius since the 1850s. Furthermore, each of the last 4 decades has been warmer than any that preceded it since the middle of the 19th century. These conclusions come from analysis of millions of measurements gathered in different parts of the world. The temperature readings are collected by weather stations on land, on ships, and by satellites. Greenhouse gases, which trap the sun's heat, are the crucial link between the temperature rise and human activities. The most important is carbon dioxide because of its abundance in the atmosphere. We can also tell it's CO2 trapping the sun's energy. Satellites show less heat from the Earth escaping into space at precisely the wavelengths at which CO2 absorbs the radiated energy. Burning fossil fuels and chopping down trees lead to the release of this greenhouse gas. Both activities exploded after the 19th century, so it's unsurprising that atmospheric CO2 increased over the same period. Analysis showed that for 800,000 years, atmospheric CO2 did not rise above 300 parts per million. But since the Industrial Revolution, the CO2 concentration has soared to its current level of nearly 420 ppm. For many years, groups of so-called climate skeptics have cast doubt on the scientific basis of global warming. However, virtually all scientists who publish regularly in peer-reviewed journals now agree on the current causes of climate change. A key UN report released in 2021 said it is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, oceans, and the land.
Wow, that was really an eye-opener. Thank you very much, team. You guys put in a lot of effort to make our audiences more aware about what's happening. And, such packages, documentaries, theatre plays, they would always raise awareness. Going back in time, I think theatre was the only way where how you would express that, how the society feels too as well. And not just that. I think while we say that these were the oldest ways, theatre at the same time was a way to kind of convey to the governments what the problems were too. And, they were rated highly too as well. We had a very amazing ecosystem over here in Islamabad, Karachi and Lahore where regularly theatres would take place, but it's nowhere to be seen anymore. But since we talk about 75 years of independence, I think we have come a long way, and it is our sole responsibility to highlight the people who want to be the keepers of theatres and save it and make documentaries, make people more aware about it. So we're very lucky, ladies and gentlemen, that when we talk about Azmi Alishan Shad Rahega Pakistan, it's going to be because of these future generations who are present over here in the studios with us. So without any further ado, what they did was that there was a competition, their final year project from Berry University, where our senior producer Jamshed Sultan Sahab happened to be the judge, and so he picked up on a few kids who really did outdone the other kids too as well. So without any further ado, introducing these amazing future generations who will be the flag bearers, in fact, of keeping the theatre alive, and not just that, making more documentaries to make population aware of what's wrong and what's right. So ladies and gentlemen, I will be introducing somebody who happens to be a media student. His final year project was about life in village. I don't know whether how relevant it was for him, but he did a great job at that. He is Mr. Ibtisam Alam. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, how are you?
Walaikum assalam. I'm great. What about you?
Thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you. And what do you think? What about me? Do you think that I'm okay? Do you think I'm good?
Yeah, looking pretty much good.
I think that's what he
pretty
wanted to hear.
much good. Suited, booted.
Thank you very
as
much.
usual.
And alongside Ibtisam, we're lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who went into theatre. He said that, okay, my final year project will be about theatre. And then he was like, okay, what topic? So the topic he picked up you know, back in those days, I think when somebody would talk about it was very controversial. But he actually rose to that level where he was like, okay, if it was controversial, why was it controversial? So I think for the better explanation, we're lucky that we've been joined by somebody who happens to be a media student once again, and he is Mr. Muhammad Mustafiz. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Walaikum assalam, Shazad. Thank you so much for inviting me here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you. You know, when I was your age and I was in conversation with somebody my age, I would always be like, you know, bhai kaise hain aap? Well, it's wonderful to have you. Thank you very much. So let's get started with you, first of all. You know, why do you think such a final year project was important for somebody who was studying media studies?
Actually, an entire semester, we've been taught different techniques of media, like film things, the things related to the film, and documentaries and theater. So it's up to us that what we have to choose at that time.
Yeah.
So when we were given a chance to, you know, portray the things, so that was my idea to, you know, choose something traditionally, which was, you know, going, you know, behind the scenes and all that stuff. So I just chose that. This particular thing, the traditionally village life, just because, you know, I wanted to see, I wanted to show the people, being a filmmaker, being a producer, emerging, you know, emerging producers that are that are come in future. So that's why I just thought that why shouldn't we show something, you know, the thing that are already going in the market. So I thought to make a documentary on a village life that would gonna portray that how the life of people, how they make a survival, not going with a materialistic life, and going with a peaceful life and all that stuff.
But for such kind of production, you know, it's really very important that you kind of go and be in connection with the grassroots levels too. You know, because that's where, you know, that's what you would want to highlight. That's what you would want to tell people. But for somebody who's always lived in an urban city, and that too for the likes of Islamabad, was it a little difficult for you to put in a little bit of research? Which village did you go to when you thought about the documentary?
Yeah, first of all, I had a very good, amazing team with me.
Wow.
First of all, Mizan Bhai, Usama Bhai, and after that, Mizan Bhai, and Muhiz Bhai, and the editor, the one who did post-production, literally very good, which amazed your senior producer, Jamshed sir. So they literally did very well. So basically, coming to the point, coming to the fact that how we being, you know, not up to that village life, having upbringing in a modern city's life, it was not difficult. It's aptly said that when you like something, so you it's not difficult for you. So when I went to the village, I literally enjoyed, and we went to Paharpur, the village basically. So I literally enjoyed over there.
And it's great, you know, because whenever we talk about village life, I think we think about pathiyan, you know, majje chona, you know, stuff like that. And it is really very important for your healthy being as well, which is why for the first time, ladies and gentlemen, his documentary will premiere on PTV World this morning. I want the world to see it, and then we will come back to him and be like, okay, you know, whether you did a great job or not. But if Jamshed Sultan Sahab said that it was a good job, so I think it must be a good job. Please, let's go. Let's take a look at what he did in his documentary.
Okay, you know, this was the village life, and my father often, you know, extolled the virtues of the village life and, you know, what is missing in the modern capitalistic society. And, you know, Suzanne, did you ever had the opportunity to have food from the earthen pots?
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
it is so good, and the taste is so good because that's very natural. And, you know, they have a life of, I think, 1 year or so, and after that, you know, they eventually get, you know, rusted or something like that. So you can't use it when it comes to that. And they have very, you know, natural sort of herbicidal properties, you know, that are very healing when it comes to your health. and that is still present in our villages. So I would really like to ask, my guest here that what was the predominant theme of that documentary when it comes to that?
Actually, what I was just thinking before making that documentary is all about that. I wanted to make, to show the viewers that we're just living in a materialistic life. We're just thinking about ourselves, even after going with lots of facilities around us, and we have been surrounded with lots of facilities. We're not going with the peace in our lives, that so-called peace that we're finding for. Right. We haven't, we're not inclined to that so far yet. But the moment what I just thought that I want to go to the village, and I want to show that how peaceful their lives is. They are, they're near to the nature.
Right.
They're literally
nature friendly. That's true. That's true. That is one of the theme, and I was having a conversation with a psychologist, and he said that modern Western life, especially people living in the West, the wellness and happiness models are failing there, and that's why they're looking for the East. That's why you will find that yoga and meditation are finding a lot of traction when it comes to that, right? Because that gives you a very sort of a soully and a very heartly happiness when it comes to that. So moving on to my second guest. So your theme was around Manto, right?
Yes.
So why Manto? And there was also a film I do remember that was made on the Manto, right?
Over here and across the border too.
Yes, and it won the critical acclaim, I think so.
Yeah, the Pakistani film was made by Sarmat Khusat,
right?
And the Indian film that was the main protagonist was played by Nawazuddin Siddiqui. Yeah, so the reason that I chose Manto was that people often remark that he was a very controversial figure, but I'd like to elaborate and discard this primitive view, since Pakistan's government back in 2012 acknowledged and actually gave the first posthumous award to a celebrity in the history of Pakistan, and that was to Saadat Hasan Manto.
Yep.
So this acknowledgement itself discarded the entirety of the claim that Manto was an isolated, rejected celebrity of the past.
Which he wasn't.
Which he wasn't actually.
That's true. That's true. And like I mentioned before, that artists often struggle to find the sort of respect that they deserve. Sorry, in this society there was a bit of fumble. So there was already a film on the Manto. So what different did you brought to the theatre when it comes to that?
So actually, our idea was revolving around the fact that it was a political struggle between two different poles of the earth. One was the USSR and one was the USA.
Right.
And so the shift of Manto was contradicting to what was prominent in the Pakistani society. So this entire fact was what made people turn against Manto.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So this was the entirety of what prompted hatred against him.
Right.
I think for what I know about Manto is that, even if you watch his films and the work, he's produced, or probably whatever he's written, whenever he's in a mushaira too as well, I think it's about having that mindset where you really need to kind of highlight the evils of the society, and I think everybody's done it. So everybody's going to have their own niche. Manto had this niche as well. So, so saying that he was instigating hatred, well, that's not really the concept. I think he was very truthful, and that's something which wasn't really very welcomed by the audiences and the people too as well. But we do have clips of your theatre with us, and we're going to share them. You have to let us know whether what different did you do when you brought Manto onto the theatre and stage too as well. So let's go. Let's take a look. All right. Yes, I think we're going to take another 30 seconds to kind of move on towards that. Yes, please. Let's go.
Right.
And
आपने जब सारा लिखा है वो कैपिटलिस्ट एजेंडे के तहत चलने वाले सियासतदानों को हो रहा है।
पनाहगार अदीब और कम्युनिस्ट हैं। He is just not threat to society.
मंटो एक अदीब है और अदीब कभी भी मुआशरे पर हमला नहीं करता, बल्कि मुआशरे में अदब के टांके लगाता है। जज साहब,
और इस बात का सबूत मैंने ही आपके अपने अफसाने हैं।
प्रोसिक्यूटर साहबा को मेरे गंदे किरदारों पर एतराज है। क्या आप तमाम अफराद को ये किरदार रोजाना की बुनियाद पर सड़कों पर नहीं मिलते?
you know, that was a really hard fact, you know, that the one of the dialogue that brought to the face that, you know, an adib or the writer always bring truth to the society, which society does not want to listen to it, right? So Shehzad was asking, you know, who wrote these you know,
scripts and lines, they were very powerful.
Yes.
It was basically a joint project. It was done by my friend Mughis Heather and myself. We both wrote the dialogues. It was collaborating effort.
I think it was wonderful. But now let's come down to this bit, because I believe that this bit is very interesting, and the future generation, since we're talking about Azmi Alishan Shad Rahe Pakistan, I think it's totally on to you as well. And this is something which we will be transcending on to our future generations or to people like you. We have seen how, I have seen in my life that, you know, earlier, because I happen to be a part of theatre too as well, you know, Urwa, Mavra, all of these amazing people, Hamza Ali Abbasi, Usman Khalid Bhatt, all of these people did their bit of theatre too as well, but it is nowhere to be seen now. So why would you pick up on a topic, okay, Manto, yes, but in the first place, I think I need to talk about theatre, which is not very common and famous in between people now too as well, with the advent of social media, television, Netflix, Prime Video, and there's so many other platforms. Why would you pick up on such a topic which was actually getting a little obsolete? Do you think that there's still scope of it if produced wonderfully well?
Actually, theatre, in my opinion, is the basis of all creative art. It was actually the first art which has now transcended into various forms such as short films and etc. and all these stuff that you see on screen today. And why I chose theatre was because I feel like you get to express more in it. Everything, every expression of yours is multiplied by 3 or 5 as compared to what is presented in a film or a TV.
Exactly, that's true, and it's because of the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, theatre actually acts as a nursery and a university for actors like us too as well. So imagine, even in today's time, if I'm going to speak about theatre, so you know, Nasir Chinioti, Salim Al-Bela, Iftikhar Thakur,
and not just
Zafri, all of these people are the people who've been actually picked up by international cinema. Not just that, but they're so hit now that everybody wants them, and it's because of theatre that they have so they're just so good at acting and expressing and their body language. So for all of those people who actually want to be actors, please make sure that you go back to theatre, learn something and do something extraordinary, and then come on towards TV.
Right, and there are a lot of, you know, theatre productions that are doing wonderfully well. So one big name that comes into mind is Copycat Production, right? Where Anwar Maqsood is directing that, and you know, Anwar Maqsood is a literary genius when it comes to that. You know, his dialogues, you know, his pronunciations of the Urdu, they're so on point and perfect. And a lot of actors, you know, they were actually, I think it was, like you mentioned, that it was a nursery for them. So Harim Farooq, Gohar Rashid, they all came from, you know, these kind of copycat productions when it comes
and in addition to that, you know, obviously Anwar Maqsood Sahib is a legend. He writes, you know, whenever he makes a strike with his pen, it is something which everybody wants to listen to or probably read to as well. But the credit actually needs to be given to Dawar Mahmood as well, because he happens to be the founder of Copycats Production too as well, and he's produced, you know, Sava 14 August, Paune 14 August, 14 August and all of such plays too. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you towards the end. You know, because we are keeping up with the theme this year around 75th Independence. What is your vision? What do you want to do when you graduate? Because this was your final year project. Please go ahead, talk to the people, because the Pakistani elderly population needs to know what the future generation holds within themselves and how they want to express.
The last message that I want to give to the viewers is all about that we are the youth. And you have to, basically, in order to upbring the youth, you have to give youth the platforms. For example, if there wouldn't be any platforms, so how youth could be able to, you know, express their talent? For example,
creating platforms for themselves.
Yeah.
And this is really very important. I'm sorry that I'm interjecting, but I want the youth to know that it is on you totally to create those platforms for yourselves and for the people to come to as well. For example, we have one, alhamdulillah, and you're on that platform. All right, so this is how it's going to work. What about you, brother?
So, in my opinion, media is an evolving field. It has becoming dynamic and it's growing exponentially. It has various branches, and I would like people to indulge and explore these branches. You know, these days digital media is becoming a thing that's like the gig of today, and I want people to, you know, Pakistanis especially, to come and, you know, explore this field. It's something new. And also theatre. We shouldn't let our roots, you know, we shouldn't leave our roots. We should hold on to them, as they'll empower us, they'll enlighten us with the energy that will require for making something new.
Wow.
That's really a very nice message to give, and especially because I am also a media student, and the new paradigm of the development is the communication development strategy, and which says that you need to target smaller masses with this smaller sort of medium, and theater is one sort of a message. And I'm talking about creating a positive impact. So we have a very lovely story to share in our next segment. So we are going on a short break and be right back.
Inshallah.
The successful harvest is a reason to celebrate and enjoy the fruits of labor. We present to you the dawn to dusk Punjabi dance.
Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we were talking about how positive impact can be created on the society, and there are a lot of ways through which you can impact a change in a society by the virtue of your position, or you can carve out your own path, as Shahzad was mentioning to the young students they were here, right? Making out your path, and once you struggle, you are determined on your path, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a lot of ways, a lot of resources for you to accomplish your mission when it comes to that. So we have one such success story.
Yes.
In a studio sitting here with us, and he happens to be an expat Muslim. He's living in UK, but he is here now now, and we are talking about how, you know, small changes can create a big impact when it comes to that.
Exactly, and in addition to that, you know, I would love to mention over here where how, God forbid, you know, if you do not have parents on your head, and that at a very tender age of 6 years old, you lose your confidence because they happen to be the backbone as well. But that's not it. You know, this gentleman always had this drive. He wore confidence, you know, and he made sure that he's going to do something extraordinary. So first of all, he made sure that he's going to be a self-made millionaire, and he did that by actually creating this wonderful space we call singlemuslims.com. And it is very famous in UK, since I have my house in UK too as well. So I know how many people are actually every single day looking for other Muslims to get married with their children, and it's a problem over there. So he actually gave them that solution. But that didn't stop you, you know, and it didn't really stop him. And he was like, okay, now I really need to help people, give back to the society and community. So imagine he made an NGO which was named as Penny Appeal. And ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about Penny Appeal, it was covered by BBC too as well, that, you know, they generated, I think, 100 million pounds. And, you know, it was a record time too. But that's not it. I think that the concepts they brought in for bigger changes and bigger differences they created were great. So imagine they gave in, you know, when we talk about Pakistan, they brought back 2.1 billion rupees, which were invested over here in different segments of the society. 9,334 kitchen gardens running 65,000 kitchens. 18,645 tube wells, which benefits 216,020 people. 461 deep wells benefiting 100,000 plus people, 27 solar powered wells which benefit 32,600 people, and then 31 mosques, and the list goes on. So ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by the founder of singlemuslims.com and Penny Appeal, and he happens to be Mr. Azeem Yusuf. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, how are you?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction, and happy Independence.
Happy Independence Day.
And all the viewers.
Happy Independence Day. Thank you very much. You've outdone, you know, people who are certainly your age, and you did a great job. So, you know, I might not go into single Muslims as of now, but let's talk about Penny Appeal, because that's what you're doing over here in Pakistan, making sure that you're going to help a lot of people. So how Penny Appeal came to you in the first place? How did it all generate? And then why did you come back to Pakistan?
And you have a book also about that, right?
Yes. Alhamdulillah, it's been an amazing journey, and the book distills that. So last year when we were in lockdown, I thought to myself, you know, I've always wanted to tell people, it's okay, I can talk one-to-one with you know, individuals, but alhamdulillah, we are now the largest Muslim charity in the UK. How do I tell the donor database? How do I tell our stakeholders? How do I tell those people who are non-Pakistani, non-Muslims? So it was about, you know, let's put it down into a book. Let's use the time that we've got in COVID, in lockdown, and write that. And, you know, a lot of things were distilled, and a lot of things came to mind in terms of what actually happened and how Penny Appeal came about. You know, my grandfather was in the Pakistan Army. He flew all around the world. He served in places and that I've not even ever visited, and he was a great guy. Even still to this day, you know, may Allah have mercy on his soul, he's no longer with us, but even till this day I've never met somebody with ethics, morals, outstanding, you know, etiquettes, the love and the generosity that he has. It's amazing, and that for me is Pakistan. You know, he came over, my parents came over, and we were happy. We had a nice little family, but sadly tragedy hit the family when I was just 6 years old. My father passed away, and it was a difficult time for the family. It was a difficult time for everybody because my father was so young. He left a very young family. But alhamdulillah, my mum took reins. My mum is a real powerhouse of a lady. She learned to sew clothes. She learned to sell clothes. She opened up her own shop. She had a market stall in Wakefield in West Yorkshire. She learned how to drive back in those days, you know. A woman driving, it was like, what's going on here? She took us to school, and she supported us, and I think, you know, it was about love. You know, what children need, ultimately what does a child need? He needs love. He needs to be immersed in love. That's true. And we got a lot of love, we got a lot of support, but still, you know, that was missing. What was missing was the fact that, you know, I didn't have a father, you know, but that was Allah's wish, and now I see that as the big plan. Allah is the best of planners.
That's true.
And when I was very young, in my early teens, my mum sent me to Pakistan. She says, look, I need you to attach yourself to your father's side of the family as well. Go have a look at what your chacha, go meet your chacha, go to your village. And I was like, that's great, mum. So she saved up for a long period of time, and she got me a ticket to Pakistan. And that was an amazing experience. I went to this remote village outside Islamabad, and it was an adventure. It was like, oh my God, what an adventure this is. There was no roads, there was no electricity, there was no gas, there was nothing.
And people were surviving?
People were surviving, people were loving it. But I saw camels, buffaloes, goats, scorpions, snakes, rivers, mountains, and I had so much. It was like Indiana Jones movie, right? But under that beauty, under that gorgeousness, there was, you know, there was pain and there was suffering.
True.
Right.
So, you know, like here.
And, you know, at the same time, we're actually, I'm very sorry that I'm cutting you short, but we're playing videos of, you know, whatever Penny Appeal's been doing over here in Pakistan. So why don't you highlight these as well?
Okay, this is one of the masjids that we built in Pakistan.
You built 31 mosques in total over in Pakistan.
So over 5,000 children visit these masjids and do the hifz courses, but also spend time there. The masjids are also used for funeral services, congregation, tarawih, 5 prayers, fajr, all the way to the Isha.
It's a Jama mosque.
This is a Jamia masjid. Yes. At that time, before this masjid, there was nothing there. People were reading at home. And this is one of the Pakistani donors who's donated on behalf of himself, on behalf of his wife, his children, and also his parents as well.
Lovely.
So the Sadaqah Jariyah is for his own whole entire family. That donor might not be able to see that mosque, but I went to see that mosque and it's beautiful. This is a livelihood program. So there's Nazra B, who's the lady, and we gave her 1 pregnant goat. That was 3 years ago, 1 pregnant goat 3 years ago, and she was a zakat receiver. Now she has 11 goats. She distributes milk around the village. She makes money from the milk. Her children go to school, and now she's a zakat giver.
Mashallah.
So we've turned her from a receiver to a zakat giver. Wow. Last year when she was struggling a little bit, you can see the floods, the recent floods have come to her doorstep there. Last year when she was struggling a little bit, she sold one of the goats, and we bought the goat very, very cheap, £60. She sold the goat now for £300. This is a school, so the school really on Google, you can see from 2018 the school was a little hut, no windows, no doors. This was a school here, just this little space. 30 children, 30 girls and this is a donor plaque. Now this children has 200 students, and it's 5 years old.
It looks like a school now.
That school is 5 years old, but the paint work, the plaster, the toilet facilities, the water tank facilities, the wells. We've got 2 wells in that school as well. And it's an amazing facility, and it's a local partnership. So the locals work with Penny Appeal to make sure. This is one of the water wells. So this is a remote South Punjab desert. It's desert. And I've never seen poverty like this, but we put a hand pump there, individual hand pump, so women can fill the water and use the water with dignity.
Right.
And also have a kitchen garden as well. At this moment in time, there's over, you know, for our kitchen gardens, there's 60,000 meals a day. Right now, 60,000 meals a day, because of the generous majority Pakistani donors that have given to Pakistan.
Wow.
It's amazing. And, you know, I'm so proud that, you know, we started off this charity. It was started off in the memory of my late father in the remote village in Pakistan. You know, we sponsored a chap called Ali in the village. So Ali, when I went to my father's village, I thought, you know what can I do here? And Ali was on the same wavelength as me. So Ali said, look, Azeem, you can feed them, you can give them water, but it's a plaster. Yeah, you know, if you get a cut, it's a plaster. What you need to do is educate the next generation so they can understand how to get out of poverty.
True. So you taught them to fish.
We taught them to fish, so we sponsored Ali, and Ali was paid £30 a month. And so I supported Ali, his wife, his 5 children, his mum and dad.
Lovely.
And that was for £30.
And I think this is what Pakistaniyat is. It is deeply intertwined with the humanitarian values that we harbor. And you know how our expat brother came back to Pakistan, and you know he's helping so much, he's contributing so much to our society. So we have talked about Penny Appeal, and I would really like to focus on the single Muslim. So I am living in Pakistan. I really don't know what are the problems that the expat community faces back in the West, right? Especially when it comes to the matchmaking or the matrimonial problems. So educate us about this app, and how did this idea came to your mind?
The idea was easy because my mother wanted me to get married. So when I was so all my life as a youngster, my mum was saying haram, haram, haram. Girlfriend is haram. Don't have no girlfriend. So when I was finished university, my mum says, okay, you need to get married now. I says, okay. She says, have you got somebody? I was like, eh?
All of a sudden.
Have you found somebody? I was like, my God, I would never dare be seen with a girl because I would get a slap. She said, okay, no problem. If you've not got anybody, we can get you married for your chacha's daughter in Pakistan. I said, my chacha's daughter in Pakistan? I said, we are on a different wavelength. They say you come from a different planet. I said, no, it's not a different planet, it's a different universe. The education system, the legal system, everything is completely different. Right? You've got a house in the UK, the mindset, everything is different. And at that time when I was at university, I thought, okay, I've got this problem,
Right.
but my whole peer group has got this problem.
Right.
I know some amazing eligible bachelors. I know some amazing, you know, guys, girls that are ready to get married now, but they don't know where to get married. The community doesn't really support you. The local masjid doesn't really support you.
Right.
There's no network of Anti-Gs.
True.
So I was my background is tech. My background is
Rishte
tech.
wali auntie,
Rishte wali auntie, yeah. My background is tech, so for me it was easy. So singlemuslim.com, right? Easy peasy.
And you created it.
We created it, and overnight, alhamdulillah, it was a really big success story. But you know, the success of Single Muslim, the tech team behind Single Muslim, so Single Muslim is now 5 million strong globally, over 100,000 marriages.
Right.
100,000 marriages. So imagine the dawah that is.
I think you're quite a contributor to the population too, as well, the global population, right?
Amazing dawah, right? Somebody was saying to me, I mean, that's amazing dawah. I says, yeah, well, 100,000 marriages. You know, children,
at least two
children,
kids every marriage.
200,000 children, maybe 400,000. So imagine the pyramid.
Alhamdulillah.
But the beauty of that was it enabled me, gave me the freedom and the independence to do the charity work. And my team was so supportive. And believe it or not, they're not Pakistanis. Majority of them are not Pakistanis, and majority of them are not Muslims. But yet they felt the pain of the Pakistan, the journey, my story from Pakistan. They wanted to help and they wanted to assist with my, you know, with the legacy of my father. And they were helping me evenings, weekends, nights, and that's when Penny Peel started off. And I was thinking to myself, if I build one orphan home, I'll be happy. If I build one well, I'll be happy. If I can feed somebody in Ramadan, I'll be happy. But now, alhamdulillah, you know, we've got 20 million people that we support worldwide, and we work in 60 crisis hit countries. And the beauty of it is that we work a lot in the UK as well. So the Muslims in the UK that are donating, the Pakistanis in the UK that are donating to the UK causes, helping majority non-Muslims, non-Pakistanis. So imagine what kind of that is a mission, isn't it, right? And it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's the best closer way too as well, you know, to bring people together as well.
Unbelievable with feeding, with eating, with sitting down as a community.
And very quickly, you know, towards the end, so in addition to that, because you're here, alhamdulillah, once again, so you must be doing your philanthropic work, you know, keeping up with that. You know, recently Pakistan's been hit by floods again as well. So is Penny Appeal doing something for the flood affectees as well?
Absolutely. Our teams were on the ground the following day. So we work with 6 different locations. And even till this day, we are helping with 3,000 meals a day to those people who are flood affected. So we have the first phase, which is the emergency phase, the second phase, which is the rebuild phase.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Azeem, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. Keep up the good work. And if there's anything we can help you with, you're always welcome. Please make sure that you join us too as well. But with everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you write it to us on our pages as well. Till the next time, it's going to be a good morning. 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
Morning.
Bye.